Today, we re-diving into a story that starts with a simple will, but unravels into a mystery so profound, it will change everything you think you know about family, war, and the secrets we carry. This is the story of Incendies. It all begins in a lawyer's office in Montreal. Twins Jean and Simon Marwan are there to hear the last will and testament of their mother, Nawal. For the last 5 years of her life, she was completely silent. She never spoke a word, just hummed an old song from her childhood, her eyes lost in a past they couldn't see. The lawyer presents them with 2 sealed envelopes. One is addressed to their father, the other to their brother. Simon is instantly angry. "Our father is dead," he says, "and we don't have a brother." He thinks their mother lost her mind in her final years. But Jean senses something else. She believes her mother wasn't confused. She was burdened by a secret too heavy to speak. So she decides to honor her mother's last wish and find the people these letters are meant for. Simon, frustrated and grieving, refuses to join. Jean travels alone to her mother's homeland, a country in the Middle East scarred by decades of civil war. Armed with only an old photograph of a young Nawal, she begins her search. The moment she shows the photo, people's reactions are strange. Some recognize the face immediately and turn away in fear. Others whisper her mother's name. One old woman finally looks at Jean and says, "You are Nawal's daughter. That means you are tied to a story of fire." And with that, we're pulled back in time, decades into the past, to see the world through young Nawal's eyes. She's a vibrant young woman living in a deeply divided society. She falls in love with a man from the other side, a love that is forbidden by her family and community. This forbidden love leads to a tragedy that tears them apart. Soon after, Nawal gives birth to a baby boy. But because he is a child of shame in her family's eyes, he is taken from her at birth and sent to a remote orphanage. Before they take him, her grandmother secretly tattoos 3 small dots on his heel, a permanent mark so that one day he might be found. Nawal makes a solemn promise to herself. She will find her son, no matter what it takes. Just as she begins her search, war erupts, engulfing the entire country in chaos and violence. Villages are burned, communities are shattered, and people are forced to flee their homes. Amidst the turmoil, Nawal's personal quest to find her son becomes a journey through the heart of the conflict. She travels from one refugee camp to another, from one devastated town to the next, always holding on to a small baby blanket, the only thing she has left of him. She asks everyone she meets, "Have you seen a boy from this orphanage? Have you seen a child with 3 dots on his heel?" Her search through the war-torn landscape changes her. She witnesses unspeakable horrors, but instead of breaking her, it fuels a fierce determination. She becomes more than just a mother searching for her son. She becomes a voice for the voiceless, an activist fighting for justice in a world that has lost its way. Her courage and defiance put her on a collision course with the powerful and violent factions controlling the war. Eventually, her activism leads to her capture. She is thrown into a notorious prison, known for its brutality. For years, Nawal is imprisoned. She endures unimaginable suffering, isolation, and the constant threat of violence. Yet, even in the darkest of places, her spirit refuses to be extinguished. She sings the songs of her childhood, the same songs she would later hum in her silence. Her voice becomes a symbol of resistance within the prison walls, a sound of life in a place of death. And it's during her time in this hell that she gives birth again, this time to twins, Jean and Simon. For their own safety, the babies are taken from her immediately after birth and sent away to a new life in Canada, far from the war that defined their mother's existence. Now, back in the present day, Jean is walking the very same roads her mother once did. She finds the ruins of the orphanage where her brother was sent. She meets people who remember Nawal, the young woman who sang in the face of despair, who never stopped searching. Piece by piece, Jean starts to assemble the mosaic of her mother's life. The fragments of the past are overwhelming, a story of incredible pain, but also of incredible strength. Realizing she can't complete this journey alone, she returns to Canada. She tells Simon everything she has discovered. This time, moved by the truth of their mother's sacrifice, he agrees to go back with her. Together, the twins follow the final threads of the story. They trace the life of their lost brother, the boy with 3 dots on his heel. His name was Nihad. His life was a mirror of the country's turmoil. Raised in orphanages and radicalized by war, he was molded into a soldier, a sniper, and eventually a brutal interrogator for one of the factions. He became a man defined by the very violence that had shaped his mother's life. As they dig deeper, they uncover the final shattering piece of the puzzle. They learn that their brother, Nihad, was eventually assigned to work at the same prison where their mother, Nawal, was held captive. He became a feared torturer there, known for his cruelty. And his most famous victim was the woman who sings, the prisoner who drove him to madness with her defiant songs. He subjected her to horrific abuse year after year. And then comes the devastating revelation that ties everything together. The twins discover the true identity of their father, the man the first letter was for. He was the prison torturer who assaulted their mother, and that torturer was her lost son, Nihad. Their father and their brother were the same person. 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. Sometimes it equals 1. In a state of shock, Jean and Simon find his grave. They place the 2 envelopes their mother left them on the stone. One addressed to the father they never knew, the other to the brother they never met, now resting in the same grave. They open the letters and read Naval's final words. To her son, Nihad, she wrote, "I am here. You searched for me without knowing who I was. I searched for you my entire life. Now the time for anger is over. The time for promises has come. Now you can rest." The story ends here. And to her twins, Jean and Simon, she left a message of hope. You were born in difficult times, but you will live in peace. Carry the truth forward, but not the pain. Forgive the past, and forgive yourselves for surviving it. Standing at the grave, the twins are silent. There are no more tears to cry, only a profound, quiet understanding. Their mother's silence wasn't born of madness. It was born of a truth too terrible to speak. She didn't leave them a legacy of tragedy. She left them answers. By sending them on this journey, she broke a chain of anger and violence that had spanned generations. She didn't just end her silence. She ended the story. This is Incendies, a film that begins with a question and ends with a truth that is both heartbreaking and liberating. It's a reminder that behind every silence, there's a story waiting to be told. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into unforgettable cinema. See you next time.